Episode 142 of Australia's #1 marketing show. Listen in to this fireside chat I have with the vice captain, wait for it, of the Australian Sudoku team, Sudoku, who also happens to be an award-winning copywriter.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day everyone and welcome back to Australia's favourite small business marketing show. I am your host, Timbo Reid, but much more importantly, you are a motivated small business owner who wants to build that baby of yours through some very smart marketing. We can help you right there. And we are brought to you by the very good folk at Net Registry who help get your business sorted online, every aspect of it, whether it be domain name registration, website hosting, website design and development, search engine optimization, that's getting to the top of Google, pay-per-click advertising like Google AdWords, you name it, any part of your online marketing, the guys at Net Registry can help you get it sorted. So I'd suggest go and visit them, netregistry.com.au. Tell them Timbo sent you and they will look after you like you've never been looked after before. And I also want to welcome everyone from the Flying Solo community. Today's show, guys, I have got a very interesting show. I've got this fireside chat I had today, actually, with Mick Colliss. Mick Colliss is the vice captain of the Australian Sudoku team, but he is also a small business owner and he also owns a copywriting agency. He's a copywriter by trade. So he ticks a couple of boxes in my mind, and I thought it'd be interesting to have him come on and share some of his marketing love. I want to give you a little bit of share a bit of listener feedback that just came through before I hit the record button, and a bit of a Dubai update. I was there last week. Thought I'd share what happened over there. So there's a little bit to cover. So let's get stuck right in. Now, my time in Dubai was very, very interesting. Spoke to 75 high-performing financial advisors and ran a 4-hour session with them, mainly around content marketing. Talked about editorial mission, getting your message right, but then the idea of blogging, podcasting, video marketing, publishing. Kind of ticked all those boxes, had them doing some kind of interactive stuff within their groups, and it was also me sort of talking from stage, giving a keynote as well. And just reminded guys just how much we know as small business owners that we might take for granted. My session went really well, and people coming at it's interesting listening to what people were saying to me afterwards. You know, didn't know you could do that, didn't know that was available to us, and I just think all of us should just stop for a moment and reflect on just how much we know about the industry in which we operate and the fact that our customers and our prospects don't know as much as we do. And that's why they pay us. So we've really got to attach some value to our knowledge. And I think we should be sharing it more openly. And that's where content marketing plays a big role. And it positions you, if you're willing to embark on a content marketing strategy, it will position you as a thought leader, as an opinion leader in your industry. Some other insights just from being in Dubai. I was reminded again at this concept of choice. I went to a souk, which is a market. They're called souks. There's a gold souk, a diamond souk, a spice souk, a general souk, and they're kind of old time markets. And the amount of choice is extraordinary. It's overwhelming. I talked about this when I went to Vietnam a few weeks ago, that when we're confronted by choice as consumers, I think often we can shut down and it makes it harder to make a purchase decision. So if you are offering a lot of choice in your business, then maybe reconsider it and just kind of refine it down to those products or services that people really want. I don't think there's no award for offering the most amount of choice. So that was one observation in Dubai. Another one was just the importance of branding. There are so many every big brand in the world is represented in Dubai. And it was a reminder to me of just how important it is to build a brand, to build that emotional attachment between you and your prospect. And that doesn't involve necessarily big budgets, although in Dubai, boy, oh boy, everything is big. It's the biggest or the fastest or the tallest. Incredible marketing case study. The whole of Dubai, they're setting themselves up for when the oil runs out and focusing on tourism. And I think that's an interesting thing in itself to kind of think about, where is your brand going to be? Where is your business going to be in 10 years' time? And do we have to consider another direction? And, whoever was responsible for the overall planning of Dubai was a seriously good marketer as well. Whether it'll work or not, look, I wouldn't have a clue. I haven't got a crystal ball, but it really is something that's been built out of the desert. 100 years ago, there were Bedouins rocking around on camels and living in tents, and now, you have got the world's biggest shopping centre, the world's tallest building, the world's biggest water slide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Quite incredible. Customer service, they just nail customer service over there. Just reminded, when you do receive good customer service, it's mind-blowing, and lots of examples of that over there as well. So that was my Dubai trip. I'm back now, and I am doing some wonderful things where I'm going out on behalf of the City of Melbourne and visiting lots of small businesses and getting lots of amazing insights from spending 3-hour sessions with about 30 small businesses over the coming 4 to 6 weeks. So hope to share, or will share, some of those insights as they come to hand. Now, a little bit of listener feedback before we get stuck into the interview with the Vice Captain of the Australian Sudoku team. I just got this sent to me just before I hit the record button. It's from Steve Parkins, and Steve says, "Hey, Tim, way back in podcast 96, you reviewed our website. We listened to what you had to say, and I believe we have taken it all on board. Thank you for the time that you took to review our site. It was hard to hear, but often the best advice is. I think we have achieved a good result. Time will tell, I guess. Once again, thank you from a long-time listener, Stephen Parkins, Apex Executive Interiors." No worries, Steve. Mate, what I love is that you've taken the action. And I love that point you make, saying, good advice is often hard to hear. I'm actually finding that a little bit lately. I spend my days and weeks giving advice. Some of it might be crook, but I know some of it is good because when I give advice, I've tested the advice myself and I know it works. Sometimes I'm amazed at when people don't listen. I wonder whether we should just make a point of listening a little harder. In fact, I only met with someone yesterday who didn't listen at all. I could have taken it personally, but it's an interesting thing, listening. Sometimes you can hear but not listen, and other times you can listen but not hear. And it is hard to take on advice when it is not what you're expecting, but sometimes you need to reflect before you completely shut down and not listen. Reflect on whether that advice is coming from a good place and the person means well. So, hey, thanks, Steve. I really appreciate the feedback, mate. Now, let's get stuck into today's interview. Mick Colliss. Mick Colliss, he just ticks so many interesting boxes. I spoke at an event where he was also speaking at about 2 months ago in Sydney, and that's where I met him. And I thought, I have to get you on the show because not only is the Sudoku story funny and interesting and inspiring, but he also happens to be a copywriter and a small business owner. And I know how many small business owners struggle with getting their copyright on their website. So lots to talk about. This is an interview that goes all over the shop, really. We talk about goal setting. We talk about representing Australia. We talk about copy. We talk about small business. And we do touch on marketing, funnily enough. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce and welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing headquarters, the Vice Captain of the Australian Sudoku team, Mick Colliss. Mick Colliss, welcome to Small Business Big Marketing.
Thanks very much, Tim. Pleasure to be with you.
Now, Mick, you're a towering, I think from memory, 6'4". You're an author, you're a copywriter, you're a rugby commentating public speaker and modern day poet. Oh, and vice captain of the Australian Sudoku team. How the did that all come about?
Well, which one? Look, they've all really. I've just kind of stumbled upon all of them. They're all things that I enjoy doing, and I guess because they're things that I enjoy doing, I pursued them, and I've been lucky enough to be able to do those things at at a fairly regular level and at a level that's, I guess, above what I probably thought I would be doing when I started wanting to do it. So, right. it just, mate, a lot of luck, a lot of being in the right place at the right time, and just not being afraid to ask.
Oh, you're a very humble man. Well, let's talk Sudoku. Is it Sudoku?
Well, we call it Sudoku, but whether that's right or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, you're from Perth.
Yeah.
But mate, interesting story. I'm going to somehow each time try and kind of keep the truck on the small business marketing track. But I think there is something around goal setting here, and I just think it's an interesting story to tell. So how on earth did you become Australia's Sudoku champion?
Well, it's one of those things. Like most kids growing up in Australia, my dream was to wear the green and gold and represent Australia. And I tried a lot of different sports, but I was no good at any of them. But I just kept trying, because just for some reason I just had this thing in my head that I would have loved to have played for Australia. I was starstruck and mesmerised by, I grew up watching Dougie Walters and Simon Poydon and all these great Australian athletes, and wanted to be like them. So that was my dream, was to play for Australia. I tried rugby, I tried rugby league, I tried cricket, I tried surf lifesaving. I even had a crack at lawn bowls, but was no good at all of them. And it got to the point where I was 42, and I kind of thought, well, look, I've had a crack at everything, but I just wasn't any good at anything. And then I went up to Brisbane to watch the Bledisloe Cup with a mate, and on the way he's pulled out a book of Sudoku puzzles. I'd never seen Sudoku or played Sudoku, but for some reason we'd had a couple of beers, that might have something to do with it. Yeah. We thought that if we created our own World Sudoku Championships, that we could pick ourselves in the Australian team, and that would tick that thing off the box. But when I got back from Brisbane, I was devastated to discover, I just jumped on Google and found there had actually been this World Sudoku Championships the year before. It was in Italy. They had 114 competitors from 32 different nations. So it was this massive tournament. Yeah. So I kind of thought, well, look, I was initially a bit disappointed, because I thought there's another dream that's gone. But I thought, well, look, I might as well have a crack and see how you actually get to compete for your country at that existing World Sudoku Championships. And I hadn't played Sudoku before, so it was a bit of a long shot and a bit optimistic, but I thought, look, give it a crack. So I've jumped online, and look, to cut a very long story short, to compete at these World Championships, you need to be selected and have your selection ratified by your country's member of this World Puzzle Federation. And Australia didn't have a member of this World Puzzle Federation. So I've applied, I was accepted, so I became the Andrew Demetriou of Australian Sudoku. I was the sole selector, so I ended up just picking myself and three mates, and off we went.
Love it. So those 31 teams that had gone to Italy the year before, Australia wasn't represented?
No, that was how we were the first time that Australia had ever been represented at a World Championships.
Tell me about that moment where you've looked at your mate and gone, you know what? This is our shot at it. It's going to be Sudoku, but it's a shot at getting the green and gold. Yeah,
well, it was funny because a lot of people think that it was a bit of a piss take, but it wasn't. Like for us, I mean, we were in the Australian team.
Mick, it sounds like a piss take, mate.
Tim, no, trust me on this one. We were in the Australian team, and we were the four people representing 20 million Australians at a World Championship. So it was on our shoulders, and we got decked out. We had 5 different uniforms. We had the whole blaze of the tie, so we had the number 1s right through to the number 5s, which was the green and gold Australian playing kit, and we had everything was embroidered. We had Australia written across everything, and we were there. We were the Australian team. And
was the original, when you looked at your mate and gone, it's going to be Sudoku, that's what we're going to represent Australia in, at that point was there a bit of a wry smile, and then it became, at some point you've gone, oh, hang on, we are representing the country, or was it always very serious?
Look, there was a bit of a wry smile, because look, only one of the 4 of us had actually played Sudoku before, so we knew that we weren't going to go over there and set the world on fire and break any Sudoku world records. But once we kind of thought, look, this is a way we can actually do it, and we found a way, like, because we'd all played a decent level of rugby, and we'd all trained very, very hard to try and.
Oh, mate, you were completely set up then for Sudoku.
Exactly. So it's not like we'd sat on a couch all our lives and eaten donuts and decided, oh, let's go and play for Australia. We'd done a lot of the hard work before, but just didn't have the ability. So we kind of thought, okay, we've done the hard work. Now it's just a matter of picking the sport, and Sudoku fell into our laps. And once we were there and we were wearing the Australian kit, then it was very serious, and we gave it our all. We were there playing for Australia, and there was no way we would give anything other than our absolute best for Australia at that time. And when I remember when we completed the first, you had 45 minutes to try and complete 12 puzzles, and there were 7 rounds, so there was 7 lots of 45 minutes. And so I'd finished one puzzle in 45 minutes. So it wasn't the greatest performance at the World Championships. No. But I remember I looked across at my mate Hamish, who was sitting on the decks next to me, and when it was pens down at 45 minutes, and we looked across, and he said, "How did you go?" And we both just gave each other the Leighton Hewitt fist pump, because we'd both finished one puzzle at a World Championships. And that remains one of the most satisfying moments of my life, was against all odds completing a Sudoku puzzle, which was only the second one I'd ever attempted at a World Sudoku Championships. And it was just, mate, it was a great moment. And it was something, it could have been me walking out on the MCG, but I was sitting there and I was doing Sudoku, but I was still doing it for Australia. And for me, that was what it was all about.
So at some point, I still can't get over this whole, you're a rugby bloke, which there's this whole brains versus brawn thing going on in my mind, but clearly you've got a bit of both to offer the world. So at some point you've gone, you've completed one. What were other people completing in that 45-minute time?
Well, I did that puzzle in 41 minutes. So I had 4 minutes to try and complete the other 11 puzzles. So I didn't really bother getting stuck into that. But the guy who went on to win the World Championships did that same puzzle that I did in 41 minutes. He did in 2 minutes 26. He finished all 12 puzzles, I think, in 5 of the 7 rounds. Legend. So they were at a different level to what we were at.
He would have been an interesting fellow.
Yeah, Thomas Snyder was his name. He was a postdoctoral student in bioengineering at Stanford University, and I'd studied phys ed. So it's mate, we were poles apart. But he can play. Look, he's a genius. He went back-to-back world champion, and not many people can say they've done that.
Oh, I love it, mate. Love it. What? Okay, so your major thing there is just being able to complete one puzzle within that 40 at a world champion, which is fantastic. Were there other people there with a similar story to you, just trying to chase the opportunity to represent their country, or were you?
No, that was it. And that was the funny thing, because we went across there as an Australian team to play for Australia, whereas the other guys, like the Americans, for example, like at our Australian Sudoku Championships, we had 4 people turn up, and that was the 4 guys. So we were, a fair chance of making our 4-man team.
Yeah.
The Americans had 1,000 people turn up to their national titles, and the winner won a $10,000 prize plus a spot on the US team. So they took it very seriously. And the thing that they said about us, what they liked about us, is that we were there playing for Australia, whereas they were Americans who happened to be over there playing Sudoku, and they happened to be American, whereas for us it was all, we were representing Australia. And they liked the fact that we embraced that whole team ethos and being there to represent your country. And they kind of, when they sat back and they thought, God, we are the best in our country, we should sort of go there as the American team, or the Chinese, or the English team, whatever it might be. So that was kind of a legacy that we like to think that we left, is really the fact that these people are the best in their country, and they should be going with that knowledge. They are representing their country.
You've represented Australia in Sudoku. You've come back, and you're now proud owner of the green and golds. How's it affected your life and your business?
Well, my life, Tim, I struggled a bit when I came back. We saw it with Ian Thorpe when he retired. And a lot of elite athletes, all of a sudden, like I was Mick Colliss, vice captain of the Australian Sudoku team, and then when I came back, I was just Mick Colliss. So I'd probably had 6 months where I felt a bit lost, and I wasn't really sure how to. It didn't affect me at all. It was, I've been running off the story for quite a long time now. So, but look, it's just one of those things. It's people enjoyed it because it was if we were any good, I finished 89th out of 89th. Hamish, I think, was 88th. His brother Sandy was 87th, and the captain was 83rd. So we didn't set the world on fire. Australia came 20th out of 20. So
wow, mate, you've really done us proud.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think if we had have actually done well, people wouldn't really care about the story. But the fact that we were just 4 blokes who wanted to play for Australia, we found Sudoku, went across, and we just gave it a red hot crack. People just really liked that. I think it's just a very Australian thing to do, and people like that about the story. So,
well, I think you're being a little bit modest, because, well, maybe not modest, but I think you have used it to your advantage. You've come back. I met you a couple of months ago at a conference in Sydney for mortgage and financial service people. You were speaking on the main stage there, so you've created a personal brand off the back of this.
Yeah, and again, it was not something I set out to do. And I mean, look, we had a documentary made that aired on the ABC and on the Australia channel up in Asia, and there's talk of a movie. As I said, I'm on the speaking circuit at the moment, but it all just started. We had a few beers on a plane, and we thought, let's go and do this. So we went and did that, and then we came back, and for a couple of years, a few of our friends knew about it, and that was it. And I only started speaking because one of the guys from our rugby club, who was the marketing manager at Engineers Australia, he said they were having a cocktail party and could I come and be the guest speaker? And I said, well, what do you want me to speak about? And he said, oh, look, just tell the Sudoku story. I've told the ladies at work and they think it's funny. So I thought, oh, yeah, all right, no worries. So I rocked up with no guest speaking experience whatsoever. I rocked up and I've told this story and it was well received. So it went from there. So it was one of those things that, again, it's something I've stumbled into. I didn't set the goal of, okay, I'm going to go and play for Australia, so then I can go and get on the speaking tour and then maybe do something else with it. It's just something that we did, and these things have come out of it just by the nature of the story. So it's yes, I have developed a bit of a brand, but it certainly wasn't intentional. And it's the same thing. Look, if people want to hear the story, I'm more than happy to go and tell it.
You said you dropped out, but I think you said someone's considering making a movie of the story?
Yeah, there's a production company here in Perth called Impian Films. They've been in touch with Village Roadshow and explained the story to them. And Village Roadshow are very keen. They think they love the idea. It's like the Australian Cool Runnings. Yeah. And they've got a wish list of actors together, and they would like Eric Bana to play me. Whether Eric Bana wants to do that or not is another story. But I think at the moment they're trying to raise some funds for the initial production, and they've got someone writing a treatment. So once they've got the treatment and that gets approved, they'll go to script and then be able to approach actors and say, this is what the story's about. Yeah, so it's only early days, and look, I don't think it'll come off, but look, I never thought that we'd do it. I never thought there'd be a documentary. I never thought that I'd be speaking about it. So if a movie does come off, it'd be very funny to walk with the guys down the red carpet with a beer and watch a movie about ourselves.
And mate, I think it's wonderful how you've covered up the whole use of performance-enhancing drugs throughout this whole endeavour.
I think you need to perform to be accused of having performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, listen, now let's talk goal setting, because you do set goals, right?
Yeah, I don't think I ever have. I think that I set directions more than goals, because I think I'm one of these people that I think, okay, if I set a goal and I don't make it, that not that I'm a failure, but I haven't achieved that thing. Mm-hmm. So I think if I set a general direction and I head off in that direction and I achieve something in that direction, my chances of success are a lot more than setting a specific and defined goal. So for me, it's probably a protective measure to not set a goal, but to set a direction. Mm. And all the things that I've done, it really just has been directions. Like the rugby commentary, I thought, I'd always like to commentate on rugby. So I started off with the community station and did some games there. And then I went to a commercial station and happened to be at the right place at the right time when the World Cup was here in 2003. And there was no other rugby people in Perth that kind of were on radio. So I managed to be able to do some commentary there, and all these things that I've done I've kind of thought I'd like to do that, and I've just kind of found out how you actually get to do it, and look, been fortunate enough to be able to actually do it.
Yeah, I like that direction setting. It kind of just sets you in a forward motion as opposed to setting goals, which I'm kind of one not to set goals, but kind of just head off on a path that you kind of think would be interesting and you could kind of do well at.
And I think that if you set goals and you're so focused on those goals, I actually think there's a lot of things you'd miss out on. Like if your goal is in a direct line and that's the only path you take, like there's this big S shape that might eventually get you there, but you get all these wonderful things on the big S bend that actually gets you to kind of where your goal is. So I think that by me, I mean, look, it works for me. By setting directions, you just get exposed to a lot more different things that you might not have ever considered if you were just so focused on that one goal.
Good point. You're a philosopher too, Mick.
Oh, yeah.
Now, listeners, I'm talking to Mick Colliss, who is vice captain of the Australian Sudoku team and happens to be an award-winning copywriter and a small business owner. He owns a copywriting agency in Perth called Cooch. Now, I want to talk about copy, Mick, because you're actually one of the few creative people in Perth who has been showcased in not only the One Show New York Awards, but also the D&AD London Award annuals. So you know a thing or two about copy, and I have been known to talk about on this show the fact that small business owners really struggle with that whole aspect of copy. Why do you think that they get their logos? We've sort of had this conversation off air, like they spend money and time getting that graphic designer and getting the logo right, but they neglect their copy.
Look, I think anyone with a pen or anyone with a computer that's got a Word document file on it thinks they're a writer. And because everyone can pick up a pen and write something. And whereas design, I think you can see something and think, oh, geez, that doesn't look any good. But if you write something, you think, yeah, that's pretty good because I did it. So I really think that writing. I'm a writer, so I'm obviously a bit biased, but I don't think that writing as an art form gets the respect that it deserves just because everyone can send an email or write a letter or whatever it might be. So I just think everyone thinks they can write, but there's a difference between writing and writing well.
Oh, man, is there ever. And, like great writing can actually lead a prospect on a kind of journey from inquiry, initial interest, inquiry, research, right through to actually buying, and again, I mean, there's so much to talk about when it comes to great copy. So there's the importance at that level. And then there's that idea that, yeah, we are all copywriters because we all have pens and Word on our computers. And then what I see is them being incredibly verbose. And that's the biggest word I'll use in this episode. But because it's easy to be verbose. I've been accused of being verbose. It's much harder to nail something succinctly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fantastic quote, which for the life of me, I wish I had have thought of it before we started talking. And it was something about how hard it is to. I think it was the first line of a letter I think this bloke wrote, and he said, "Apologies for writing so much. If I had more time, I would have made it shorter." Yeah. It's something along those lines, and it's true. To write concise, accurate copy with the minimum amount of words, it just takes a lot of time because you'll write a sentence and you look at it and think, okay, how can I say that in fewer words? And script writers do the same sort of things in movies. It's a real economy of language, and it's about saying as much as you can with as few words as possible. And once you've got that, and that's a real skill, and it does take a long time. And again, it's a skill that I think that, and it's even like with advertising, the simplest ideas that people think, oh yeah, I could come up with that in 2 seconds. They're the ones that some poor bugger's slaved over for probably 2 weeks trying to refine this idea and make it seem so simple. But there's just been so much thought into getting it down to that pointy end of the actual communication.
Man, like you talk about script writers, I think Tarantino is the master of limited amount of words, yet with the most impact. If you ever look at a script, Kill Bill is a great example of a script where there's very little said, but boy, what a powerful film.
Exactly. I'm sure if someone actually got the screenplay to Kill Bill and thought, oh, is that all? Is that the only words they're saying? I mean, there are some like Rambo where that is all that's said, and that's kind of because it doesn't really say much anywhere else, and that's a complete different sort of message. You got one guy who doesn't say anything versus something like Kill Bill that says so much in so little. It's I mean, look, I'm a wordsmith, and I love words. I think they're powerful. And you spoke earlier about words can lead you through this journey. I mean, look, a good copywriting is like a good salesman. They basically knock on your door, they get you in, and they just hold you captive, and then before you know it, you're handing over their money and you've bought their product, and that's what words can do.
You mentioned the concept of idea before. I tried to get. There's been three people who have ever declined coming on my show. One was Seth Godin, the marketing doyen, and I'm still working on that. Another one was Laura Jane, who is the she got that chain of women's fitness clothes.
Oh, my missus loves Lorna Jane.
Yeah, I think a few blokes like Lorna Jane too. And the third one was Todd Sampson from the Gruen Transfer.
The Gruen Transfer, yeah.
Now, we might be able to have the conversation I wanted to have with Todd, because what I think, there's copy, and Todd's a copywriter, but there's also the concept of coming up with the idea.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted to talk to Todd about, because, we've both worked in large advertising agencies, and that's what the creative people spend most of their time doing, is coming up with the idea and trying to figure out how. Holy Grail. It is the Holy Grail, isn't it? Explain what you mean by that. What is the idea?
A good idea. Look, it's one of these real. It's such a hard thing to categorise. There's a guy over here who calls advertising the black art, because it's subjective, and you don't know a good idea until you've seen it. So it's, I mean, if people think about their favourite TV commercials or their favourite press ads, and they've always got a good idea, and it's this little kernel of something that it gets into your head, and it kind of, it doesn't. it's engaging, and you'll see this thing, and it lets you, in your mind, you see this thing, and then your mind kind of answers what's not being said or what's not being shown, and just that extra level of depth of communication is the thing that makes it memorable, and it makes it stand out from, like, I think we see something like, look, you hear different figures, but say, 1,600 ads a week or something we see. Mm-hmm. And, if you ask anyone, give me 3 ads that you've seen in the last week, if they can get maybe, 1 or 2, they're doing well. So there's people that are wasting exorbitant amounts of money because they're doing these ads that aren't memorable. And the thing that makes an ad memorable is a good idea.
I guess exactly right. I wonder whether a great way of describing the idea is an idea is a way to use story to sell a product. Now, I'll give you an example. One that comes to mind is, like, if you consider like the old double AMI. Do you get double AMI over in Western Australia?
I think they're Lucky On with Amy. Yes.
Yeah, Lucky On with Amy. So, like, they've got they used to have those TV commercials where the most bizarre, unexpected accidents would happen.
Yes.
So the client brief would have been quite rational. It would have been like, okay, double AMI insurance covers you no matter what happens. So all of a sudden the idea becomes, really bizarre, memorable accidents, as opposed to someone standing in front of the camera and just repeating the brief.
Correct. And like one of probably my favourite ad in the world was an ad for John West, and they talked about that their fish is the freshest fish, and the idea of the ad that I liked was, you got your fisherman who goes out in the Canadian wilderness where the bears are on these pristine lakes, and the bear pulls out this big trout fish, and then the little fisherman runs up and has a stand-up punch fight with this bear and then steals his fish and walks off. And it's about how, John West, it's the freshest fish you'll get. And just that, it's just an ad that you can watch over and over and over again, because that idea is just such a beautiful idea of, okay, let's get a man wrestle with a bear to steal that bear's fish, because that's how fresh this fish is. And it's just, look, it's a lovely idea, beautifully executed, and again, that's what we talk about, the design and the copy. It really is a combination. It's nice to have beautiful words, but if it looks ugly and it doesn't look inviting to read, and you've got big words and small words, you're not going to read it. So it's that combination of beautiful words and beautiful art direction that this makes it's the complete effective ad. And if you can throw in an idea in there again, well, then you're on an absolute winner.
It's always been a bit of a conundrum of mine working with small businesses, because that process you just described of coming up with an idea, having a copywriter, having an art director or a graphic designer team up to produce those ideas, it's quite easy for the big guys, but small businesses can't afford agencies. So I guess the trick there is to find someone, I talk about this concept of the virtual marketing team, but adding people to your virtual marketing team who have the ability to generate ideas.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it is expensive, and people don't. Again, it's. I don't think it's the whole process is valued enough, and it's often hard for us to basically undervalue and undersell ourselves, because the thing that we find, a lot of companies can't come up, like, everyone can write, and look, everyone, if they've got a Mac and they've got InDesign or one of those programs, they can put a poster together, and let's call that art direction. But the one thing that a lot of people can't come up with is the good idea, and that's sort of it's a very specialist thing. But again, that is an expense. So you're right, a lot of small companies, they just can't afford to spend $10,000 on getting someone to come up with an idea and art direct and write their press ad. So it's and it is. I think this virtual marketing team you talk about is a great idea. Where I need someone to give me the idea. Just give me that, or I just need some words. You give me that. So you sort of cherry pick the skills that you need within your budget.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great to just recognise the importance of the idea. Let's kind of finish up with kind of some practical things that small business owners can do around their copy. And one of the things that I always say to clients, and when I'm keynote speaking around this whole area of getting your message right first, is that I say, your website copy is a really good place to start, because websites are a place where you can have an infinite amount of words by the nature of a website. You're not limited to, a 4-page brochure. I say if you get your website copy right first, then you can run off, you can adapt it to brochures, sales letters, presentations, whatever. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, look, I mean, very much so. And you've got to remember that, like a lot of people now, I think, look, I don't know what the stats would be, but I'd say it'd have to be, probably 80% of people, the first contact that they will have with a business is their website. They might hear about, like I'm going through the process at the moment of we want to putting in a pool and I need some pool fencing.
Geez, mate, the Sudoku stuff has really paid dividends.
Mate, it's a small pool, trust me. And so I was given some business names and numbers to ring up about pool fencing. So I haven't called them. I've gone to their website. So, and that's what people do. People don't want to be sold to straight away. So they want to go and find out the information. So I've gone and looked at this website. So my first opinion that I will form of these pool fencing companies is from their website. So if I get on a website and I see that there's spelling mistakes, there's bad grammar, it's written poorly, for me, I'll think, okay, that company, they're sloppy, and they've got no attention to detail. I'm putting in a pool and I want a good fence. I'm not going to go with them because they might be the best fence builders in the world, but my perception from their website copy and their website is that they're sloppy and they're no good. So I'll dismiss them and I'll go to the next one. So the copy on your website, particularly because it is often that first point of contact, it's just so important that it is well written, that it is concise. It's not this verbose, long-winded story, because people don't have time. They just want to know what you've got, how it's going to benefit them, and then if they want to take action, what do they do next? So,
well, there's a couple of things there. We are who Google says we are, number one, and I've talked about that on the show before. Number two is that website is your virtual store. So you're not going to,
absolutely,
you're not going to run a shop on the high street that's dirty and messy and disorganised. So why run a website like that?
Correct. And it's the same with the copy, the tone of the writing. And it's your shop front, and you're not going to have a staff member who'll kind of go, yeah, what do you want? Yeah, no, good on you, good on you. Like you're going to have someone your copywriting is your sales staff member. You want that person to be friendly, to be approachable, to be helpful, and sort of people just don't sort of realise the importance of that initial contact, because that copy, that is your salesperson, and how they treat me as a reader is how they would treat someone in the store. So if they're rude and short, well, I think I'm not going to spend my money here. But if they welcome me and make me feel special, I think I like this bloke, so I'm going to stay here and I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to read what he's got to say.
Mick, what's you've worked with a few small business owners, you've written copy for small businesses. What's a good working relationship look like between a small business owner and a copywriter?
I think for me, trust is the main thing, because I mean, look, and again, it's because that these people, everyone's got a pen, everyone's got a computer, everyone's got an opinion on writing. If I go with a builder of a house, I don't know the first thing about building, so I'm not going to sit there and say to him, mate, I don't like the way you've laid that brick, or I don't like the way you've done that, because it's not my field. I'm going to trust that bloke. I've paid him money. I expect him to do it right. But with writing, we'll write stuff, and you'll get, like I did a job for a real estate agent yesterday, and written a press ad for him, and he's come back and he's made these minor little changes to the copy that really make no difference, but it's kind of him wanting his input in the copy. So, and that just for me becomes annoying, because it's semantics. It's his and again, because copywriting and advertising is so subjective. What one person loves, another person hates. So that can go back and forth all day. And again, that's where it's going to become expensive if you're constantly making changes to your copy. So if you get something and you're generally happy with it, you've got to back the writer and think, okay, I'm going to go with your opinion because you write for a living. That's what you do. I sell nuts and bolts. So I'll worry about the nuts and bolts of my business. You worry about the copywriting. So for me, trust is got to be a key thing. It's got to be a very open relationship. If they don't like it, feel free, come back and say, Mick, I hate what you've written, but then let me do it again. And I want to be able to say, okay, well, look, I need more information. How can I do it? I don't think you should be saying this. And again, with advertising, as you probably know, a lot of clients, if they've got 10 things they want to say all 10 things at every opportunity. And people, when they read, they're not going to remember all 10 things. So it's really about the client saying, okay, look, let's only put one thing in this ad. Let's make this ad all about one thing. Give the person one thing to remember. That's going to get you more success than this shopping list of 10 things. And it's the client then saying, look, okay, I trust you. I want to put all 10 in, but if you tell me I can only do one, I'll just do one. So it's a real open relationship, and trust being the key thing.
Mate, that last one, that's a big one. The single thing. Put one ad, one message, one sales letter,
Absolutely.
one message, one video, one message.
a lot of small businesses, they're on a limited budget and they've got all this stuff to say, and they want to say it all because I think, look, I've got one ad, I want to tell everyone everything, but it doesn't work, and that's such a hard thing to get through the heads of people, that you've just got to tell me one thing. I'm looking at 1,000 ads today. Just tell me one thing. I'm not going to remember all 10 of yours. Give me one.
It was a major part of when I was in advertising. It was a major part of the creative brief, which was, I think the creative brief had 7 or 8 questions on it. The key one was, what is the single most important thing we can share with the prospect?
Yep.
And that requires you to do some hard work, to kind of go, okay, well, there's 10 things I want to tell them, but through a process of elimination, this is the most important thing. And if they understand this, then they're going to go and investigate and find out the other 9 things.
Stuff. That's what we always used to laugh at the big agency we're with, where on the brief it'd say, the single-minded proposition, the single most important thing. And for me, single means one, the single most important thing. And you get the suits, the account service would give you 5 or 6. And we're saying, okay, it says the single. What is the single? Single means one. They go, oh no, they want to say this. Oh, give me one. It's a single. So that takes a lot of discipline and a lot of courage, a lot of guts for someone to say, okay, I'm going to put, this is what I want to say. This one thing is what I want to say in this ad.
Well, Mick, I commend you because you have started Cooch, and listeners, you can go and visit Cooch, COOCH.com.au, and it is a writing service for the small business owner, which I love, and there's not many of them. I often send my listeners or my clients off to Elance or Odesk, but it's great to know that you guys have got something going in regards to that. Now, Mick, what's next, mate? You got your eye on maybe leading the Australian underwater hockey team to victory, or?
Well, I would. Look, I'd love to play. I'd love to be a dual international. Like, that'd be the dream.
There you go.
But it's very hard to find something you can play for Australia in that you don't need to be any good. And that's
right.
That's where we're kind of struggling at the moment.
Well, there's going to be something. I mean, never say never.
So. I'm always a big fan of playing. I like playing Connect 4 against my kids. And the last time I looked, there was no Connect 4 World Championships. So
can't believe that. If
there's one in 12 months' time, you could find me in the green and gold again, picking myself and a few mates.
Hey, dust it off. Hey, Mick Colliss, thanks for joining us and sharing some gold on small business, big marketing.
My pleasure, Tim. Thank you.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that fireside chat with the vice captain of the Australian Sudoku team, Mick Colliss. I certainly did enjoy bringing it to you. 3 things that I got from that. Number 1, have fun. Have fun in your business. Have fun in life. Number 2, set a direction as opposed to a goal. I like that. Goals I've always struggled with goals, but the idea of kind of pointing yourself in the right direction and just heading down that path, that works for me. I think it's something that I've probably been doing in my business anyway. Now I've got a name for it. Number 3, put a value on great copywriting. Okay? You probably already put a value on great design in your business. Value great copy. Not enough small business owners have a copywriter on their virtual marketing team. I encourage you to get one. Don't let copy be the domain of the least busy person in your business. Don't let it be the domain of you if you're not a copywriter. Just because you got a pen or just because you got a keyboard doesn't make you a writer. I love that, and something that I have been pushing for a long time, and I found someone who agrees with me. Thanks, Mick. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview. Now, we've covered some listener feedback. The Small Business Big Marketing Forum is rocking. Is absolutely rocking. There are so many good topics and things being covered in it. Let me pull it up as we speak, and I can actually share exactly what some of those topics are. But right now, we have got some discussion around, if I was to go into the water cooler section of the forum, which is where most of the discussion happens, an article I wrote just a couple of days ago on 5 ways to get serious. We've got one of the members talking about he's got an idea for a hobby company that can make him some pocket money. He's talking about how to take that to market. I share a little article that I wrote also recently on an idea that made me famous. Well, famous within the company I was working for at the time anyway. I share what that idea is. We have also got some steps on ways to reduce buyer friction. We've got, again, some members asking for feedback on their website or their brochure copy, how to hire a copywriter. Lots going on. Basically, for $49 $29 a month, you can head in there. I'm in there every day answering questions and asking questions, and so are all the other members. It's just a good way to keep your marketing on track amongst a group of motivated small business owners. So you can go to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, click on the forum button, and you're in before you know it. That brings us to the close, I should say, of another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you loved it, head over to iTunes. Feel free to leave a listener review because I read them all and they pump my tires up. I love that. Until next week, may your marketing be the best marketing. See you later.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.